Good morning, everyone. We still
Good
have a
morning.
good morning. We still have a couple of minutes, and I think there are a few others that were going to join us. So I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes. But I'm Shayla. I'll formally introduce myself in just a little bit. Shannon, I saw your chat. I'm actually recording this one, so I will send the recording out to everyone, all the presenters, when we finish up this morning.
Shayla, do you know if we've had a lot of people sign up for the conference?
We have. It's actually a good question. I haven't looked this morning. Give me just a second, and I'll tell you the latest count.
Okay.
Um, as of Friday, I think we were at 550, maybe.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so we're at 601 right now.
All right.
Yeah, so we've had a lot. We have a lot of people who are interested in the renewal credits, which I'll talk just a little bit about whenever everybody gets on. So yeah, we've done our own marketing. So we're, absolutely ecstatic to have this many, considering we just kind of did homegrown, word of mouth, pushing out some emails. So we're really, really excited. And we've had several people email that they are really excited at the lineup. We started posting the schedule out on the website so people can see who you all are, what you're going to be presenting. So we are really excited. And we have a feeling it'll continue to grow this week, the number of people who register.
Yeah, I think so. 600 is a pretty healthy number to be starting off with.
It is. So I'll give it, according to my clock, I will give it one more minute. And then to be respectful of everybody's time at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning, I will get started. Good morning, Teresa.
Good morning. How are you?
I am good.
I'm clearly spoiled by not having 7 a.m. things anymore.
I know.
It's like, what in the world, 7 a.m.?
Brutal. So I will go ahead and extend my apologies. When Teresa and I scheduled this at 7 a.m., I completely was not thinking about the Super Bowl being the Sunday night before. So you all are amazing. You're either not football fans or you're just maniacs who push through it. I have to get up this early in the morning. But I am Shayla Rexhard, for those of you who I have not formally met. I'm also joined by my colleague, Teresa, who I was just chatting with. We very much appreciate your willingness to jump on this early on a Monday morning, but we wanted to provide multiple opportunities for you as the presenters to be able to jump on Zoom, become familiar with the format, but we also wanted to take this opportunity to kind of talk you through what you can expect in your session and to give you a couple updates on the conference. And lastly, to address any and all questions that you might have either about the conference, the platform, anything that we can help you with. So again, this is super informal. I am recording it. So if you're kind of one of those like Shannon, it's like, oh, I might want to go back and look at it later. We will get it out to all of you as soon as we can. It should be by this afternoon, as soon as I get it rendered and posted. So you will have a reference point following this as well. A couple of quick things. Again, along the way, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt. Just take yourself off of mute and jump in. But to quickly give you an overview of what you can expect during your session, for those of you who weren't on when I shared with a few others, I just checked and we are currently at 601 registered attendees. Yeah, we're super excited. So again, that could mean you could have anywhere from 20 people in your session to 600 people in your session. We did not set it up to where people had to pre-register for sessions. So kind of be prepared that you could have a really large group or you could have a smaller, more intimate group. Again, we don't really know what to expect from the session attendees. The way that we did structure the schedule, if you didn't notice when you went in and added your information, is that there are 2 strands per hour. So there will only be 2 session offerings at a time. One is geared more towards leaders, so administrators, coaches, district admin, and the other is focused more towards teachers. And we did that so that there wouldn't necessarily be a competition between somebody sitting there going, oh, I don't know which one I want to do. They can kind of stay within a track. It doesn't mean that if you're doing a teacher session that you're not going to have some administrators or leaders that jump in. But you can kind of assume that your audience will be whatever it's been designated as on the schedule. If you're not sure what your track is, just, ping me and let me know. Hopefully you all have my email, and I'm happy to look it up and let you know. So the day of your presentation, you will have a moderator assigned to you. It will be one of us from the Friday Institute. And we will be your complete tech support. We will be managing everything behind the scenes. We will also do a really quick intro at the beginning of your session. So if you would kindly give us like literally a minute, 2 minutes maximum in the beginning, we will start the session on our end. So we'll actually invite people in. The sessions will open up anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes before it actually starts, but people will be pushed into a waiting room. As soon as your moderator sees that you have logged in, they will invite you in privately. So you will have time, to get yourself adjusted, check your audio again. If you want to practice presenting your screen, taking it back, you'll have that time if you just jump on early before the session. But we will be starting sessions promptly just so that we can be respectful of people's time. Your moderator will come on. They will introduce themselves to the group. We'll tell a little bit about the Friday Institute. We'll do a really quick overview of Zoom for those who are not familiar with kind of the chat feature, the muting, video, things like that. It will be people's option if they choose to have their video on or their video off. The moderator will have everybody muted as they come into your session. But again, people can unmute themselves at any point if they, want to share something with you or ask a question. The moderator will encourage them strongly to use the chat window, just so there aren't people coming off of mute trying to, get your attention. There's not background noise. So we will encourage everyone to use the chat window to post questions, provide additional resources that might support what you're talking about, kind of use that as the discussion board. We are going to be recording the chat windows, so we will be able to provide that chat window back to you at a later date. So if somebody shares something, please don't worry like, I want to stop and write that down really quickly, or that was a great question. We will be able to give that back to you. Your moderator will also monitor the chat window for you. So as the chat's going on, if there are questions that they can answer, they'll go ahead and answer it. If it's tech issues, they'll take care of that. If there are really pressing questions that they think, wow, that's a really great question, we should probably ask it now, they'll kind of kindly interrupt you. Otherwise, they will wait till the very end. So if you would also build in 3 to 4 minutes at the end just for that Q&A session. That is when your moderator will come back and they'll kind of say, oh, Shannon, thank you so much for sharing. That was great. I've been taking a look at things in the chat window. It does look like there's a couple of questions. I'm going to start with this one, and they'll kind of move through, and they'll do as many as they can. Also letting folks know, we may not get to all of them in this session. So that'll be the wrap up. So your moderator will need probably about 5 minutes of your block of time just to do some of that housekeeping as well as the Q&A. We will also at the very end post a slide that will have a link to, correct me wrong if I'm wrong, Teresa, will they have a link to the survey at the end of their session or only at the end of the conference?
So each presenter, we've got you guys set up so that there's like a 2-question feedback for you that will go with your name, so that if people want to send you feedback, I love this, I'm still wondering about this, the slide will give them that link. There's also an overarching conference link, which is the one I want to like withhold, Shayla, until the very end,
Okay,
which is how they'll get CEUs.
perfect. So again, there will be a culminating survey at the end of the conference after Darren's keynote, and that is how folks will be able to print off their certificate for renewal. If you are also interested in getting the certificate, probably the easiest thing to do is for you to also take the survey. And then that way you're in the mix of how we will distribute those out. But if for whatever reason, that's not how you want to do it, you can just email me and we will make sure that you get your certificate for presenting if you're in need of credits.
I just wanted to mention, Shayla, for the, we will be watching the chat, but we will also mute people if we hear any noise.
Yes.
Other than if you shout out and say, hey, if anybody wants to come off of mute and answer this question, we will let that happen. But otherwise we will be very diligently turning people off.
Yeah. And people do have an option, which I'll share in just a minute, where they can raise their hand and a little hand will pop up next to their name in the chat window. And that is where, like, if I'm your moderator, I will privately send a message to them and probably say, hey, is it a question that you can post in the chat, or is it something that you really want to, ask live? And if they say, no, I really want to ask it, then we will take them off of mute and prompt you to let you know, hey, Brian has a question. If you don't mind, he'd like to ask you himself. But other than that, like Teresa said, we will do our best to keep people on mute, just for the simple sheer fact of if you do have hundreds of people in there, that can be very distracting, listening to people come in and out. Before we move into the nuts and bolts of Zoom, any questions about the format of your session, your moderator, anything like that? All right. You do have, in the last email that I sent, I did provide all of the moderator cell phone numbers. The day of your session, if you have any problems, any issues, we are asking either call or text us on our phones. While the sessions are going on, we will most likely not be looking at our email at all. So again, that will be the best way to reach us. If you are not sure what email I'm referencing or you don't remember seeing it, again, just shoot me an email afterwards. I can forward it back to you. But that also had just kind of some tips and tricks, but at the very bottom of that email is all of our contact information. So the moderators are Laura Albright, myself, Shayla, Teresa, and Nancy Mangum. So we will be the ones on site bouncing between the sessions, doing all the tech support behind the scenes. All right, so I'm going to jump into Zoom. You have all passed the first test, which is getting in, which is a great thing. So again, if this is not the computer that you will be using the day of the session, I do encourage you just to practice, again, coming back in, making sure. If you are at all concerned when we finish up with this that, ooh, I'm hoping the computer I'm going to use works okay, just, again, shoot me an email. I'm happy to jump on really quickly with you and do a dry run, just to make sure everything works. But again, just wanted to give you an opportunity to make sure you could log in, check your audio, check your video. I can see most of you that your video is working. We are asking that you as the presenter do have your video on so that people can see you. Again, whether or not other people do, if you really like to be able to see people's faces, you can certainly encourage them, again, once you start to show their video. And there's no way for us to turn it on their behalf. You can probably see somewhere on your screen, it might be along the top, it may be off to the side, you should see little thumbnails of all of our lovely faces at 7 a.m. You will also be able to see the thumbnails of all the people who have joined. Again, if you have more than 5 or 6, you'll have to use the scroll button in order to kind of look through to see. But if you also just kind of move your cursor a little, kind of like a toolbar of options will appear, and one of those will say manage participants. And that is also a way for you to really quickly see how many people are in your session. Or you can always open the chat and at the very top, it'll say participants, and in parentheses, it'll tell you how many have joined your session. So if that is something that, you really like to know a couple of minutes before you jump on, or right as the moderator's kicking things off, that's a way for you to jump in and see what's going on with participants. You can also minimize the thumbnails. You can move them. So if you prefer to have them off to the side or up along the top, you can. If it's super distracting for you to see people, what they're maybe doing in their space, you can just simply minimize it by going to the top right corner, and you'll see a couple different options for how you can manipulate the thumbnails. As I mentioned, you do have the chat window option. Attendees will all see the chat, again, probably along the bottom of their screen. This is an area that we would encourage you, if you do want to ask questions and get feedback from people, to do it through the chat. I know originally we said that we would offer polling. Unfortunately, polling has not been super friendly lately with Zoom. We've had a couple of just random things to happen. So we have opted not to utilize poll just because we don't want to take a risk of it being a disruption or not working correctly during your session. So we hope that doesn't throw anybody off. But if you would, we still encourage you to ask people questions and get them to give you information and give the group information. Just now kind of direct them to go into the chat window to share. And again, that's something you'll be able to open up. You'll be able to see, respond to, things like that. So we are hoping people will really take advantage of the chat window. It is also a space, if you open the chat window, if you look at the very bottom, there is an option that says file. That is where, again, if you want to encourage people to share resources, documents, slides, anything that they have that also supports what you're talking about, people can either put a link or they can upload a file. And again, we will be grabbing the chat windows to be able to share that information back out with you. I'll stop there for just a second. Are there any questions, or Teresa, anything so far that I've overlooked? Are we good? All right. If you are at all concerned about your bandwidth the day of your presentation, so again, if you're presenting out of your school or just an unusual space and you're like, I think it'll be okay, I'm not 100% sure. One thing that you can do, if you start to see that your bandwidth is dragging a little bit, or if you're seeing pauses, or again, if just that day you're like, I'm not feeling good about it, one thing you can do to increase your bandwidth is to not do the computer audio. So if you call in using the telephone number, whenever that screen popped up when you first logged in that said, are you going to use computer or phone? If you press phone, a telephone number will appear. Just go to a phone and, either use your cell phone with a headset. If you're in a private space, conference phone. But again, that will help a lot with the bandwidth with Zoom if that's something that you're worried about. As I mentioned, there will be the certificates, the surveys at the end. Let me glance. I made a bunch of notes. I'm checking to make sure I haven't forgot anything before we talk.
I have a quick note. If
Yes.
any of you are going to be presenting on your school network and are not there right now, we do want you to test it beforehand, because Zoom does get filtered by some of our schools' networks.
Yes.
So just make sure that you test it so that we have a little bit of time to work with to get it unfiltered so that you could use it from school.
Perfect. Your moderators will be recording the sessions that they're moderating. Those will be linked and posted back on the Learning for All website, so attendees can go back and watch your session later. So you will also have options, if you want to go back and kind of self-evaluate, take a look at how you did, that will be out there, and that's something that we'll take care of on our end. The other thing, I just wrote it down, is, again, as Teresa mentioned, you will be sharing your screen. So if you look along the bottom, you'll see an option that says share. Again, the moderator will kick off. We will be showing our screen. We will then at some point kind of say, all right, we're so excited to have Shannon with us this morning or this afternoon. She's going to be presenting on this. We're thrilled that you could be here. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon. Shannon, it's, your stage, take over. That is when you will press the option to share. If you will press it right now, just so you guys can see what pops up when you press it, it won't automatically share your screen. You should see a window. If you have multiple screens or multiple windows open, you will see all of those. So you'll need to know which one to select in order to be able to share out with the group. Again, if you only have the one open, that's the one that will show. But whenever we finish up, if anybody wants to practice sharing, I'm more than happy to stay on and you can each do it. And so, that way you'll be able to kind of take a look at, hey, all right, this is what your screen's going to look like. The point that you share, you have 100% control of your slides. So, the moderator will be totally quiet back there, just monitoring things behind the scene. You will take care of everything else. If you plan to have video, because I know one other presenter, we did a trial run to make sure their video played okay. If you do plan on having video, again, if you already have your slides ready and want to stay on at the end just to test out the video to make sure we can hear it and everything comes through, you're more than welcome to do that. If you're not quite ready, but you're going to have video, again, just email me between now and the session time and we will find, 5 or 10 minutes to jump on and let you test it out. But it was a really great thing that we had tested it out on his computer because the audio was not coming through, and it gave us a quick minute to kind of go into his computer settings and figure out what was going on. And now he's up and running and ready to go. So just know video is an option. Just make sure that we've had a chance, or either get on the Zoom a couple minutes early with your moderator and run through it at that point with them to make sure that it works. Again, so that is the sharing option. At the end, whenever you're finished up or when your moderator kind of prompts you for the Q&A, that is when you can share back with the moderator and they will show their slides again and do the wrap up at the end. But again, we're keeping this super casual, so your moderator will be communicating with you along the way and kind of prompt you and let you know how things are going. The last thing that we wanted to talk about were breakouts. We are still going to offer breakouts. It's a great way to just further engage or provide interactivity within your session. Breakouts are completely optional. If your comfort zone is simply staying out on the screen and asking people questions and using the chat window to host and facilitate that discussion, that's fine. If you do plan on doing breakouts, what we are asking is that when you set up the breakout in your presentation, meaning, Jim, when you get to that portion where you want people to go into a breakout, if you would just have a slide that tells what you want them to talk about, but then also indicate how long you are giving them to be in their breakout. And the reason for that is that will prompt the moderator to know when to bring the group back. So they will time it for you. So if you say, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, jump into this breakout and just take a couple of minutes to share a little bit about this or about your experience with this. Once the moderator pushes the breakout to everyone, they will start timing and they will know when to bring everybody back. The other thing that we are suggesting is when people go into a breakout, they will no longer see your screen until they rejoin the main session. So your screen will become like a blank slate to them. So whatever you want them to talk about in the breakout, keep it relatively simple into one thing. Otherwise, they're going to be sitting out there going, oh, does anybody remember? Did anybody write down what it was we were supposed to? I don't remember what we were supposed to talk about. Again, keep it simple to where they can jump in, talk about it, and come back out. When we do breakouts, because we did not pre-register, we're not going to know anything about the people logging in other than their first and last name. It'll be completely random. The system, Zoom, will even out the groups the best that it can. Our goal is not to have massive numbers of people in a group. So if at all possible, we're going to kind of keep it to 20 or fewer people in a breakout so that people have a chance to talk and feel like it is a smaller, more intimate setting. But again, we will be managing that for you behind the scenes. We will also automatically push you into one of the breakouts. If you do not wish to be in a breakout, just let your moderator know that and they can keep you out and you'll just kind of be sitting out there waiting. But if you are interested in jumping into a breakout just to kind of hear what a particular group's talking about and to have a frame of reference to bring back, you can certainly do that. Unfortunately, with Zoom, I know some of the other platforms allow the presenters to bounce between groups. You don't have that option. So whichever breakout you are put into, you will pretty much stay in that breakout until the moderator brings you back. If you are really hard pressed and you really, really need to be able to bounce, let the moderator know. They can manually move you, but you'll have to pay attention to your screen to know when they're telling you, okay, you need to accept to go into another group. and then you'll press a button and you'll pop into another group. So just know, we do have that option, but it's not something that you can do on your end. Your moderator will have to do it for you. The last thing that I'll share about breakouts is, again, the moderator will set this up for you when they're about to do the breakout. But when there is a breakout, a screen will appear. It'll say, join your breakout, or you have been invited to join a breakout. You have to press that button to go into your breakout. If you don't, you just sit out there waiting. So you could have some people who opt not to go into the breakout, and that is completely their choice. They'll just be in this kind of blank space for a little bit until the moderator brings everybody back. When it is time for everybody to come back from the breakout, the moderator will prompt that. The moderator can also send messages during a breakout. So if there's something that you want to kind of remind the group of during a breakout session, you can let the moderator know. They can send that message out to the group. But once they press for everybody to come back in, you do need to press the button to rejoin to come back into the session. Your moderator will let you know when everybody is back from their breakout. So we are asking, don't immediately jump back into your presentation when you come back in, because you could be losing some people who are still in transition coming back. So it's a minute that they have to rejoin. But again, your moderator will be the one to kind of say, all right, Jim, it looks like everybody's back, carry on. And then you will know, all right, everybody's back, and you can debrief, discuss whatever you want to from the breakout. But it's a pretty seamless process as long as the moderator kind of knows how you want it to be structured. So just put it on the slide, and that'll communicate it to everybody. Any questions about the breakout, asking questions, anything about Zoom? Any buttons that you're seeing that I haven't covered that you're curious about, anything like that? Pretty good. All right. Teresa, anything that I have forgotten?
No, I think just like design wise, as a presenter, it's going to be really important to think that if you have 200 people, even if we push you to more than one breakout room, you're going to miss the conversation in a lot of them. So just keeping that in the back of your head for how to strategically use that. And so because you won't be in every room, they're going to have to self-start that conversation. So it's going to have to be a good hook to get them going.
Perfect. I think other than that, we're good. If anybody is planning to do a breakout, do you let me know right now, and we're happy to do a quick mock run through of it just so that you can experience it.
Oh, that's the other thing about breakouts. We are recording the session, but like from a designer standpoint, it doesn't show up in the recording. It will say we went to breakouts, but however long that gap is, will just be nothing happening on the recording.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. It does not capture all of the breakouts. All right. So I do have a quick request to do a breakout. So again, if everybody's good, just again, you'll have the experience of kind of going through it. So what I'm going to do is go out and initiate the breakout. There's going to be 2 rooms, so there'll be 3 participants per room. So in just a minute, you'll see a screen pop up inviting you. If you'll just do that, I'll let you guys go into it for a couple seconds, and then I will bring you back out so you'll see what happens whenever it comes back. And hang on just a second. There's something in the chat window. Oh, got it. If you are at all kind of, I don't know if I've got a good hook, I don't know. Again, please feel free to reach out to me or Teresa, and we're happy to kind of have some communications with you and help you brainstorm what might be a good kind of question or prompt to send out to people to make sure it's something that they would be willing to talk about in a small group if they go into a breakout. I'm also happy to stay on whenever we finish up with this for anybody that wants to talk through their presentation. I'm happy to stay on and talk through it with you then as well. All right, here comes your prompt. All right. Think everybody should be back. Oh, hang on. Let me go back to share. So I am now sharing my screen. Sorry, my baby said just so you guys could practice and see what I'm talking about. I'm looking to see. Oh, there is everybody. Any questions from the breakout perspective? I know Teresa was with one group, and I know the rest of you weren't. So everybody good with breakouts?
Yeah, I think we're good. We had a good time.
Good.
What happened in that room, Brian?
I know.
We were talking some about the Super Bowl, and we appreciate our Central Time friends getting up early to be with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, that's awesome. Okay, so yeah, you kind of experience the breakout sensation. Again, it can be a lot of fun. It can, just even if you only do one in your session, that is completely fine. But again, know that it's an option, but if it's not your comfort zone, stick with the chat window. We are encouraging you to prompt or ask something along the way to get information from your group so that they do kind of stay engaged and on their toes waiting to see what you might ask next. But do know that that's out there as a feature.
Yeah, so something to note when you are presenting, when you're sharing your screen, the recording will not show everybody's heads. Yeah. So like you can move that around especially if it ends up in front of your slides, or minimize it so that you're not distracted by it. But in the actual like preserved recording, that won't be showing up. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody want to quickly just practice sharing your screen just to kind of do that run through? If you do, I'll give you just a second. You can go ahead and share, take over, take back, just so you can kind of see what that's like, if that's something you want to try out. I'll give it just a minute, see if anybody does it.
Yeah, and something to think about is notifications, because if you choose share desktop, we will see all of your notifications.
Yes, thank you. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, so if you have Twitter up, email, prompts, anything like that, turn all of that off, or 600 people may potentially see it, depending on what's going on. We do have a complete range of people. We did push this out on a national basis. So, I mean, you could have people West Coast, Midwest, from all over. So again, if that's just something you're kind of interested in knowing about in the very beginning, that could even be a question. A good one for breakouts is, just share a little bit about what you're seeing in your region in regards to whatever it is you're talking about. One of the things that we have found is that education takes very different forms, and where people are in their progression of education and their views of innovation are very different depending on where they are in the country. Also, if they're rural versus urban. So again, you could have a really big mix of some that are coming from really tiny districts, and then others who are coming from large, metropolitan areas. So those are also good types of questions to ask that everybody feels like they can chime in and connect with, of just anything that might be personal for them. It could also just be, share about how many years you've been in education, and, something about whatever you're talking about, an example or something that maybe they've seen, or something that they're challenged with right now in their profession, something that, keeps them up at night related to your topic. So any type of prompt that you can give them that is on a personal level, you have a much higher probability of them sharing than something that is just kind of broad that some may have experienced, some may not have. It's, kind of try to position it in a way that everybody can share. But I know whenever I've done them, anytime that you can have people quickly share where they're from, like, hey, quickly share, are you from a large district? Are you from a really small district? And kind of one or two things. Also reminding people, you could have a group. And again, hopefully you saw my prompt that I wrote whenever you went into your breakout. Teresa, did it pop up where it said, hey, welcome to this breakout, talk about this?
I did not see that.
Okay, we'll test it out again, because what I did in another session is I could put what the question was that you asked, and I could send it back out to all the groups. So your moderator will have that option. You should have seen it pop up on your screen.
Was it a little blue? It might have been a little blue
Yeah,
box
I
that
saw
I
it.
ignored.
Did you? Okay.
I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, Teresa
I was
was
like,
just
Shannon's a
ignoring
better
me.
person than me. We were chatting. We were talking.
But do know that as the moderator, and that's something I'll make sure all the moderators know, that whatever you prompt people to talk about, we will put it in that broadcast feature and send it back out so people can go back and reference it or see it if they are unsure or they don't remember what it was that you asked them to talk about. Or if there's something else that you want the moderator to ask in the discussion or something to prompt, you can always put that in the chat to the moderator and say, hey, would you please push this out to everybody? They can pop that in there and push it out as well.
And if you want to do a quick yes, no poll, there is, if you click on participants for yourself, you'll see them come up in your, well, for me, it's on my right. I don't know if you guys have it set up that way, but when like, so right now I've just responded yes. And so that's what it will look like for you live, so that you can just do a quick scroll and see like all these people said yes. These people said no. So if you want to do a quick, like, how many people, like, I guess, is there anyone in here who has tried PBL? And then they could raise their hand, or they could say yes, no, and you can get a quick scan. Yep, that way too.
All right. We know a lot of you need to be on your way to get started with your real job. So again, we cannot thank you enough for your willingness to participate and to share. Like I said, we have a lot of people really excited about the sessions. We as moderators are really excited about the sessions. We will be going back and watching them later as well. Again, you have my email. If you have any questions, anything that comes up, if you do want to do a dry run of like your presentation, once it's done, you're good. The very last thing we are asking, if you would please, in that agenda, or if it's easier for you to email it to me, send us a link of your slides in presenter or preview mode. We are going to make those available on the website as a link. If you are not at all comfortable sharing your slides, if there's some other resource or something that you are willing to share, that would be great. But we are going to let folks know when they first log in that, hey, if you're interested in getting this, go back to the website, to the agenda. That is where they will see a link to be able to get any of the resources that you are willing to share. So if you would just get those out to us ahead of time, and that way it's out there for people. As soon as they finish your session, they can grab it, or even grab it right before your session if they want to take notes and follow along. All right. Again, we thank you. Have an amazing rest of the day, wherever you might be. And we look forward to seeing everybody next Sunday or Monday. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.